On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. We've got some major news coming in. I've got a really awesome little video that's bound to put a smile on your face. And I've got some, I think, impressive news about what Sydney Powell is saying and how she is now helping the president. And there was a great little interview over the weekend of her talking to Mary Bartiromo and really, I think, giving us an excellent indication of what's to come. Now, things are going to play out a lot different than most of us think. This isn't going to be in front of us, I don't think anyways, as much as a lot of us want. I think some of this stuff, because of top secret, because of how bad it is in some degrees, because of how many people were involved and some of the actual people that were involved, there is a number of things that are going to come into play that I think, here's just a basic way I kind of see this playing out. I think they tried to set something up, this coup that happened. Essentially, a counter coup began, and they're both being kind of quiet about what's going to happen. I think the counter coup figured out who the bad people are, or at least a good majority of them, a good chunk of them, right? I'm not sure about how many of them. And I think there's going to be an operation that happens at some point. A guy named Ben Fulford, who's not typically right, was suggesting that something like this could happen within 24 hours. I think it would probably be a smaller window than that, at least for a lot of the major players, but they're talking about maybe putting people into some of the businesses, such as Google, Facebook, YouTube, like actually literally having federal troops go into these businesses so things nefariously don't happen, as well as possibly imprisoning some people. We'll see, again, how it plays out, but Sydney Powell's verbiage, her words, and even to quote her, I do not say things that I cannot prove. She makes some claims that are very impressive and I think kind of hint at what's coming. Now, just something that's going to put a smile on your face and is just beyond awesome. This great little video of someone trying to steal somebody holding a Trump sign. They were trying to steal the sign. Watch what happens.
Motherfucker, you lost. No, it didn't. You lost. Stupid asshole. All that hate. It's unfortunate that it happened, but
it gets better.
Man, that is. Oh, and now you got the cops.
Gotta love it.
Oh man.
Yeah, he spit on the guy.
I know. He stepped on me. Right. You know, I was the one paying attention. You know what I mean?
Tell me you got all that.
I did. You did?
I did.
Can you send it to him and then he crashes it?
I got you.
Can you send it to me?
So, needless to say, the police are then looking into what he was doing and why he crashed into a light pole, and he was trying to steal a stump sign. So, talk about karma, and that's kind of what's going to happen with a lot of these bad guys right now, folks. Karma's going to come and bite them. They knew and have been talking about this whole thing that's happening now and the way it's unfolding. This isn't a surprise. I think some of us are surprised at the gall and how it's actually true and how it's so much right in front of us. And I think to a lot of us, it's a surprise how few people, or how some people don't actually see it at all. Now, one thing that is happening right now, and you've got to be very careful the information that you're looking at. And again, it's not just believing or not believing. It's an issue of making sure you're looking at information in context to what's going on. So right now, a lot of people, at least the big league politics, which is usually a really good, trustworthy site, I think anyways. At least they put good information on here that I like. But John Durham is reportedly dropping the Russiagate investigation to appease Biden administration. This whole last part, I will almost guarantee, is completely false. Completely false. That's the part of the story that the deep state kind of tacked on, threw their spin on. Someone heard, and again, it's one of those alleged friends, sources close to the individual, so we don't even know if this is true. But what they are suggesting is that John Durham isn't really looking into the Russiagate stuff as much right now or at all. Might very well be dropping that case. Now, again, step back, put things in context. Does that mean he's not still involved in stuff? Does that mean he doesn't still have people that might have crimes that they've committed that he's aware of? No, it doesn't mean that at all. What it means is we really don't care about the Russiagate thing as much right now because, one, a coup has basically gone down. Two, they see the Russiagate thing was the means to get the ball rolling. Then, when I've got evidence coming up, a lady named Lynn Wood has filed a lawsuit against Georgia showing something illegal that happened there in March. So we're going to talk about it. These things have been playing out over time. And so right now, we're less worried about Russiagate, and more worried about the fact that they literally are trying to take this country from us, the duly elected voters. Two, Sydney Powell, and I will get there, has an idea as to how many votes were interacted. And in her words, and we'll get there, but it's not hundreds of thousands, it's in the millions. So a lot of people are saying that the popular vote is, 77 million versus 70 million or 73 million or whatever the number is right now. Things might look very, very different once they really start digging into all the Dominion fraud that seems to have occurred. So is he worried about the Russiagate? No. Did he probably find a whole bunch of stuff that actually ties into what's just happened and what is currently happening? My guess is yes. I think they uncovered a trove. I think they saw what was happening. I think John Durham was essentially doing some legwork to figure out where it was going, what was happening, when it was supposed to happen, how it was going to happen. And I think his investigations have probably already paid the dividends they truly were meant to. But then the public optics side of it might be a little different. So do I think John Durham was a total waste and everyone's giving in to Biden? I really don't think that's the case at all. And I've got some other reasons why I think that. So Lin Wood has filed a lawsuit challenging Georgia's Secretary of State's dark, unconstitutional agreement he made with Hillary attorneys Mark Elias. Wait, what? That is a mouthful. Yes, it is. So what happened? Apparently, on March 6, 2020, the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, he is a Republican, mind you, signed off, a deep state Republican, mind you, signed off on a secret legal agreement with the Democrat Party of Georgia, the Democrat Senatorial Campaign Committee, and the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee to alter absentee ballot procedures in Georgia. The Democrats' attorney for this secret deal was Mark Elias from Perkins Coie, the consigliere of Hillary Clinton, who has been busy managing other secretive Democratic election operations all across the country. Apparently what he did was not legal. And that is what Lin Wood Jr. is basically declaring, or at least suing on behalf of. They're a resident, they're a legal voter of Georgia, and they filed this complaint yesterday against not only Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad, but they also filed this against the Secretary of State's Board of Election for getting into this agreement. And really, the simple part, they were setting forth different standards to be followed by clerks and registrars in processing absentee ballots in the state of Georgia. Inconsistency, and they're not legally allowed to make those decisions. It was supposed to be the government of the legislators, the ones who make the laws, not this. So again, Lin Wood filed the lawsuit in federal court in Atlanta to establish that March 6, 2020 consent agreement by the GA Secretary of State rendered unlawful the 11-3 general election. Rendered the election unlawful because they've already miscounted. They've already removed the outer envelopes. In a lot of cases, the one thing that they could have used to prove whether or not the vote was legitimate, the vote by mail, they have, in a lot of these states, have allowed them to be separated from the outer envelope, which is where the signature and all these things are supposed to happen. So again, a whole lot of unlawful things are being brought up. There are states, all these states, Pennsylvania, Georgia, still hearing about Arizona, Nevada, I think is still, there's still stuff happening. And Georgia and Pennsylvania are a decent number of electoral votes, especially Pennsylvania. So again, Pennsylvania court rules, state election officials had no authority to change balloting rules. We were seeing balloting rules changing in a number of states. Again, there are lawsuits happening everywhere. I think the lawsuits, to a large extent, are sort of, one, they need to happen. Two, they're means of stopping this illegal sham, this coup, kind of stops it in its tracks because basically says you can't be declared the actual president, Joe Biden, yet, even though the media, even though it's, as it says below, AP's already called it, Fox News already called it, but as we're seeing, that's not necessarily true, and there is a lot of legs and serious bite to these actual lawsuits that are happening against these states. So again, don't think for 1 second things aren't happening. I've read stories that Pennsylvania, that Trump's legal team is dropping these cases. Trump's like, no, that's not true. Again, there's a lot of incorrect information that's out there that is meant to really make you think that Trump has given up, that people on the right have given up. And it's actually kind of the opposite. That Million Man March that happened just over the weekend was incredible. Now, again, something that gets pointed out to everybody, people on the left and people on the right, is that there was violence during this, but it wasn't the people on the right attacking the anti-protesters or the Antifa and the Black Lives Matter. It was the other way around. In fact, there were some arrests in those regards. So Ivanka Trump, the media's near total silence about the physical violence being perpetrated against conservatives is shameful and dangerous. Just image the outrage and indignation of this went the other way. Violence is never the answer, and instigators must be condemned and prosecuted. And also from Donald Trump Jr., the media's silence on the violence against Trump's supporters is deafening. After 4 years of calling them Nazis, at this point they might as well just dox them all or add the AOC's list for the gulags. They are complicit in the violence. They are the worst of the worst. Again, the media never calls out the violence against people on the right. Violence is never okay. Doesn't matter what side of the equation you're on, it's not okay. But what we are seeing over and over and over is politicians on the left don't call out the violence that happens from their groups. They won't. They've asked Trump like 20 times to denounce white supremacy, which he's done. Yet they refuse to denounce the sides that are attacking people and basically using bully tactics or tactics that were used back in Hitler's rise to power, the brown shirts and the whole thing that was going on back then. So again, we're seeing the same thing played out. Now, something else that's awesome, and then I'm right into Sydney Powell, the best part, because, there's some good stuff there, and it's not long, don't worry. But the new defense chief puts DOD on notice. All wars must end. That is a quote. So Trump's new Secretary of Defense, Christopher Miller, sent a letter late on Friday to the entire Department of Defense workforce, signaling what the administration will be up to in Trump's last weeks in office. We'll see. A likely major U.S. troop reduction, especially from the Middle East. We are not a people of perpetual war. It is the antithesis of everything for which we stand and for which our ancestors fought, Miller said in the memo, and emphasized that all wars must end. So we'll see how this continues to play out. Again, everything's on this whole Trump is probably not going to win. I disagree, and kind of here's why. So again, this is pretty awesome. Just to give anyone perspective that doesn't know who Sydney Powell was, this was General Flynn's lawyer, is still General Flynn's lawyer. And if you think about someone that can be trusted with the deep, dark secrets that exist out there, it would be her. Covering for Flynn, not covering, but trying to help him in this whole process. And as it stands, she basically did her job. She got everyone to drop the case, kind of how it played out. But now the judge themselves will not recuse Flynn, so we've got a bit of a nightmare there. But she's done her job and done it rather well. So she had an interview with Bartiromo this weekend, and it is pretty incredible. So I'm going to give some of these quotes that they share, and it's really the quotes of hers. Again, she wouldn't say something unless she couldn't prove it, right? She says that below. So she began talking about a particular individual, Peter Neffinger. He is the, quote, president and on the board of directors of Smartmatic. And it just so happens he's on Mr. Biden's presidential transition team, and that's going to be non-existent because we're fixing to overturn the results of the election in multiple states, end quote. This is what Powell claimed. And that was just to start. So that got everything going. Then the very next paragraph, we've got, quote, President Trump won by not just hundreds of thousands of votes, but by millions of votes that were shifted by this software that was designed expressly for that purpose, end quote. Quote again, we have sworn witness testimony of why the software was designed. It was designed to rig elections, end quote. Now, she continues, quote, they did this on purpose. It was calculated. They'd done it before. We have evidence from 2016 in California. We have so much evidence, I feel like it's coming in through a fire hose, end quote. So much information. They've already seen it happen in California. Again, they always said, watch California, right? Watch California because they've been watching California. Thank God someone's looking out for us out here. So again, Bartiromo continues to ask Powell how she intends to prove it. And she said she can't go into the details of their evidence on national TV. Quote, I just can't do that, end quote. So Bartiromo asked, okay, but you have a very small time frame here. The elections are supposed to be certified in early December. Do you believe that you can present this to the courts and be successful within this couple of weeks, within just a couple of weeks? And that's what Bartiromo had asked. Now, this is, I think, the key quote that comes from Powell. First of all, I never say anything I can't prove. Huge. Then she follows up with, secondly, the evidence is coming in so fast, I can't even process it all. She continues, this is a massive election fraud. Massive election fraud. It's absolutely brazen how people bought the system, and why they bought the system. So it's amazing. They bought this system for the sheer purpose of affecting results of elections. It was designed in down in South America, and this is where they tried it out, and it worked beautifully for them. So this is a horrible system that they're using, and it was entirely designed to take over to take over the elections, to take over our election. That is why they bought it. That was the point of why they bought it. So they're also talking about how Rudy Giuliani had an equally aggressive stance on Fox this morning. So again, the two people that Trump can actually trust, Sydney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, both have history of handling some extremely tough cases. They have got significant information, significant proof that will demonstrate these elections were rigged. And going back to that executive order I've talked about a few shows ago, Trump already has put in an executive order back in the end of 2017 that they were going to be on the lookout for this. And if anything happened from foreign governments, then they would actually get involved. They were creating this task force, which has happened right now. And if you look at the owner of Dominion Software, it was a Canadian-owned company that had servers in Germany, and on top of that, it was getting information was being relayed from Spain because that was sort of the headquarters of the parent company or something like that, which is now bankrupt, I guess. Scythe, something like that. Scythe, I don't know. Something like that. So again, things are playing out. Things are happening. The legal information's coming. The news is doing everything in their power to try to say, no, Biden won, Biden won, Biden won, because they are desperately trying to push that narrative. But the counter narrative is also gaining a lot of traction. And regardless of, they could stop every YouTube channel, they could kill everyone off of Twitter right now, that is not going to stop what is coming. All it would do would serve to prove how deep the deep state is willing to go to try to keep this information from going public. Outside of that, what's going to happen is going to happen. These lawsuits are going to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will be deciding who the next president is. And if Dominion was used anything close to what it sounds like Trump won by a landslide. Again, the courts will decide, not the media, and certainly not me. By no means am I calling Trump the winner. No. We'll see who the winner is. But as it stands right now, there's all sorts of lawsuits, and there's almost a guarantee that Dominion was used for its explicit purpose, which was to change votes. More will come. I'm sure more evidence will be showing itself. And again, how much of this stuff's going to come up before the election? Probably none. I bet you this day, this 24-hour period that Fulford was talking about, this day where something might happen, where the roundups occur, it'll be like the day after that or the week after that when they finally tell us. We are not going to find out beforehand, and we're certainly not going to find out during, and likely maybe not find out even the day after. Like we're going to be the last to know. Some of us are digging, hoping we find stuff. We'll see what we can do for you. Remember, where we go one, we go all. It's on the Fringe with Dan Radio Style.